this recent development in the cancellation of licenses, but I think it actually exposes perhaps the mischief where there were so many people selling medicines contrary to the governing regulations. What are your overview comments there?
We are very more as a regulator to ensure that they protect consumers because according to the Medicines and Allied Substances Act, which they implement, it is a requirement for all handlers of medicine, even right starting from the manufacturers. They must follow what they call good manufacturing practices. And then when the medicines go to the wholesalers, there are regulations that stipulate how those medicines are supposed to be looked after and where they are supposed to sell them. They are not allowed to sell to every Jack and Jill. They are supposed to sell to licensed pharmacies. If they are distributing to other institutions such as hospitals and the like, all those institutions must actually be licensed according to the Medicines and Allied Substances Act. And so the fact that these people were just distributing willy-nilly, it shows they are irresponsible. They do not care about the wellness of consumers. They do not care about the safety of consumers. Therefore, we applaud the MCAs as the regulator for ensuring that they cancel the licenses. Those people are a danger to the public, and they should not be allowed to deal in medicine whatsoever.
And have you received any consumer complaints related to the sale and consumption of medicines or any pharmaceuticals as the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe?
I must say that consumers have been complaining about the, medicines that are being sold along the streets, being sold under conditions that are unsuitable. You will appreciate, Rumbi, medicine is a very, important product. It can actually be dangerous if it is not kept under the correct conditions. For example, you can't have people selling medicines under the sun when the medicine is supposed to be refrigerated. But the business people or the vendors will be selling those medicines, and you wonder where they have received those medicines from. So the revelation by MCAZ is critical because it is bringing to light the issues that we are always grappling with, to wonder, to say, Maya, vavatengesa ma family planning tablets past the road, past the muti, because they are not supposed to be all over the place. There are conditions that are set. Even when you look at pharmacies, the pharmacies have certain requirements that they should meet. You should have washable floors. You should have a sink with hot water. You should have this. You should have that. And only the registered, licensed pharmacy is supposed to dispense medicines, especially when it comes to the dangerous drugs. But now you see that if these wholesalers are just selling to unlicensed premises, this is dangerous because those unlicensed premises do not have licensed pharmacists. They don't have the requirements that are mandatory for the storage of medicine and even for the dispensation of medicine. In fact, it's very criminal, and they must take it to book.
Indeed, and even you see certain things, you're thinking, where did this person get this medicine? And people buy in a Kotamai pharmacy. But I'm glad we're having this conversation and that we are bringing all these things to light. Caroline, I want to come back to you in terms of the offenses. All right. So the penalties for people who are found wanting. So we've got this list of people here. Is cancellation the only penalty that was given to them as a consequence of selling outside of the parameters that the Act provides?
Yes, thank you. So in this particular case, what we did was to first and foremost protect the public from access to these medicines. So in our investigation, we noted that what was giving them this leeway to provide this product was the permit which allowed them to buy from the manufacturer. So that's what we started off by doing, to remove it from them and make sure that they can never be given another chance to sell these medicines. So ideally, we normally then, if we cancel the license, it means that we have curtailed the problem by limiting access to this particular product. So this is I think that's the decision that was made as far as these wholesalers were concerned. But in terms of penalties, we also take a prosecution route as one of the penalties that are listed in our legislation. So it comes in as level 12, which is one of the highest, where somebody is charged and can actually be prosecuted for selling and distributing medicines illegally.
And I'm noticing also, is the cancellation period indefinite? If found guilty, is a perpetrator or an offender going to suffer the fate of never being able to hold a license again, or is there a period under which they are punished? Is it a few years? Please clarify on that for us.
So the penalties, like any other offense, is not infinite. It has a limit to a maximum of 3 years, I think. So it gives them time to reform and relook at how they are practicing. And when they come back, they may sometimes be required to write some exams to make sure that they understand what is required. But then also they are flagged as a high risk and monitored on a regular basis. Where if we are going to check everyone after 2 years, you may mean that you are checked after 6 months if you come back again to practice.
Indeed. So for the avoidance of doubt, those listed in the circular are banned, or the cancellation period will lapse in 2025.
That is correct. So we state the date when the cancellation will lapse, so that the public is aware that this person cannot deal in medicines, at least for this period of cancellation.
So what is the public supposed to do with this information, Carol? This has come out. What should members of the public make of this, and what do they do next?
So when we give out information, is to empower the public to know that, because remember, we started off with the public reporting to us as well. Sometimes we pick up issues as we're doing our routine inspections, and sometimes the public conscientizes us that this is what is happening. So if they have information, they have power to know that if there is illegal operation, they know where to report, which is the MCAZ and the police as well. So if we believe that if we give the public information, they have the power to report as well.
Rose, do you also want to come in on that very important aspect, that now that this information is out there, I mean, you will see, I'm seeing quite a few names of some very popular pharmaceutical dealers here. Best Pharm, for example. As a consumer, I go and I see Best Pharm is open and they are still selling prescription preparation medicines. What should members of the public make of notices like this, or any other, even ones, that are given to notify of suspension and offenses committed?
I'm not sure if you correctly, Ruby, because the phone seems to be having problems with net, but I will try and respond to what I understood. It is very important for people to get this information, and when people receive such information, it's also important to share the information, even in WhatsApp groups and other social media platforms, to try as much as possible to alert fellow consumers, for them to know that there is something that is dangerous and it's being sold on the market. and it's not following the proper procedures, it's not the standards of that product are no longer, in line with the requirements, because certainly if the medicines have been sold to unlicensed persons in unlicensed premises, it means that the standards of those products is no longer of what is expected, and the public should be warned and should be made aware that they should never support such businesses. I know as consumers, we sometimes want to do shortcuts to buy medicines. Usually these will be very cheap, but you know what? This is life and death, and medicine have a lot of side effects. And if we are not careful, as we are trying to treat ourselves or to get healed, and then we buy these cheaper medicines from licensed premises, we are actually causing ourselves more harm. Therefore, consumers need to exercise their responsibilities of critical awareness to make sure that they question. I'd like to applaud members of the public who alerted MCAZ, because that is actually one of the actions that we expect from consumers. Mm-hmm. Whenever you find things are being sold irregularly, where they are not following proper procedures, it's very important to take action as a consumer. You take your action by reporting to the relevant authorities, which is what these people did, and we really are very grateful and wish we had so many other consumers. And I'm sure if we had many more consumers who would react in the same way, we would really be protected more. I just want to urge members of the public to say, consumers, it's important that when we talk about prices, I'm not saying medicines must be expensive, but what I'm trying to say is that it is better to buy from licensed premises. In fact, that's the only way to go. We should always buy medicines from licensed premises and never from illegal vendors, because medicine is very dangerous. It can kill. And we would want to protect our lives and ensure we protect our health, and we are safe from these unscrupulous traders who are just trying to rip off money from consumers by using illicit ways of distributing these products in unwanted and illegal ways.
If you're just joining us, this is a conversation around medicines, and more importantly, the cancellation of permits of offenders by the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe. We are speaking to Caroline Andira-Samatanga as well as Rosemary Mpofu around this very important issue. Now, Carol, I think Rose made a very good case there for, some of the dangers and precautions that members of the public should take when it comes to purchasing medicine. But we can never overstate these things. And I think it's important that maybe you just walk us through some of the dangers that exist, or some of the dangers for the consumer when they use unlicensed medicines, when they buy medicines from an unlicensed provider or distributor.
Yes, thank you for that. So a lot of things do happen when people buy medicines from unlicensed or unregistered premises. So maybe let me explain a little bit about what we mean when we say registration.
Please do.
Yeah. Yes, the MCAZ go through a rigorous process of registration of medicines, where we actually go through the assessment to ensure that we have a good quality product. So the manufacturer is expected to submit quite a lot of documentation to support that this is a good quality product. And then we also managed to do what we call good manufacturing practices, as she has alluded to earlier, when we register a product. And on a regular basis, we check the manufacturing process. So when we do that, we are assuring that you get a good quality product. Now, when you buy off the streets, this is a product that has not been registered. That's one. And then remember, we also license the premise where the product where you are supposed to buy a good quality product, for the reason that we want it to have good storage and distribution practices, where we are checking where this product is being stored, who is dispensing it, are they qualified, and we monitor that on a regular basis. So where we put so much effort in ensuring that whatever you get is of good quality, is safe, and has been stored adequately until you get to that product. It means that we have skipped quite a number of steps that are necessary to ensure that you get a good quality product. Now, a bad quality product may actually be degrading, and sometimes when it degrades because it has been stored improperly, it can actually be dangerous, because sometimes if it's not supposed to be stored in certain conditions, like where there's sun or where there's high temperatures, moisture, and all those that we look at when we license a premise, it may actually be harmful to you. One, it may waste your time as you think that I'm getting treatment and I'm not, and worsen the condition. Or it may actually generate some things that may be injurious to you as an individual. So a lot of things can happen in a short space of time where a medicine is not stored appropriately or dispensed appropriately. You can even overdose yourself where you buy from the streets, because they have no idea. All they care about is that next dollar, and not about your welfare like we do, to ensure that you get a good quality product. So we always encourage that people buy medicines from a pharmacy or a licensed premises that holds a license. In our licensing, one of the requirements is that when a premise is licensed, they display this license to show that this shop is licensed by the MCAZ. It's got a nice MCAZ watermark that you can see clearly that this is a licensed premises. So that all those measures have been put in place to ensure that the public has got information, the public is protected, they buy from licensed premises, and the medicine that is there has been checked. The regulator does. Sometimes we actually, in fact, most of the time we do unannounced inspections where we just appear in a pharmacy to check how they are operating without them preparing for our next return. So when we do that, we are protecting the public from getting any bad quality medicines through many forms, and from right down from registration. Even where you are buying from a pharmacy, if something happens, the cadre there is educated enough to know what to do to report any effects that have happened. But if you buy off the streets, the next time you go back, maybe they are not available. You don't know where to report or where to start when you get such a product. So we always encourage the public to use the correct channels that we have put in place for many reasons, to protect and ensure that the public has access to good quality products.
Now, from what you're saying, Carol, it's pretty simple, I think, for someone to look, pamadziro, license iripoyede. So that's one thing. But let's go a little bit deeper. What are some of the other things that members of the public can look at to see, is it fit for use? Is it registered? Has it gone through MCAS processes? Is there something that you put on the label? And what are some of those signs that are readily visible for consumers to look out for?
So the consumers have got so many platforms that they can use. One, our laws are very, very, very clear on what is expected of a registered medicine. A registered medicine in Zimbabwe can be identified by a registration number that normally starts with the year, and it's got some numbers in between, and then the last number, sequential number that we issue. So the manufacturers are expected to state the ZIM registration number. It's also supposed to be in English, and many other expiry dates, batch number that we expect according to our law. But that may be a bit sophisticated for the layman. So the layman now, with technology, you can even go onto the MCAZ website. We've got registers of all registered medicines on the website. We also have registers for all licensed premises, and when we cancel, that information is also available onto this website where you can verify and check. But if internet is a problem to you, you can also pick up a call and ask to confirm whether a product is registered or not. But if you do it in the legal channels, your professionals already know. You can check for yourself to verify once it's passed to you that is this medicine registered. But it is our duty to make sure that when we license a premise, we monitor it and ensure that you get a good quality product, which is why we always encourage the public to go and buy from licit channels.
Now, Rose, I want to come back to you and look at some of the measures put in place by the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe to come in and redress, or what mechanisms are in place for consumers to use, or what recourse do they have through the CCZ when they consume, buy, or interact with medication that is not properly certified or that is being sold from an unregistered or unlicensed premise?
There are various ways, Rumbi. When you look at the Consumer Protection Act, it has also made provisions for legislation that supports the work of institutions such as the MCAZ. First of all, people are supposed to get information. Information disclosure must be full, and they should not be misled into believing that what they are buying is something else, is what they think it is, and they are actually buying something else that's different. So it is covered by so many sections within Consumer Protection Act, which works in confirmation or complementary to the Medicines and Allied Substances Act, and also to the work that the MCAZ is doing. In fact, when it comes to consumers, we always educate them to be critically aware and to take action, to have social concern, not to be swayed by retailers or service providers who are just trying to make money without following standards. Therefore, as consumers, people must actually ask for the licenses that Carol was talking about. When you enter into a premise, such as a pharmacy, you are supposed to see the Health Professions Authority certificate displayed. That's what the law says. Then if it is a pharmacy, you are also supposed to see the Medicines Control Authority certificate with its watermark. You will see it displayed. And then because there is a registered pharmacist, a licensed pharmacist, you are also supposed to look for that license, the person's license. It must be displayed. If you are not sure, you have a right to say, pharmacist. Pharmacist, because sometimes these illicit premises have the tendency of also operating without licensed pharmacists, because each pharmacy must have a pharmacist supervisor who is licensed by MCAZ, if it is a pharmacy. But you find that sometimes the pharmacist is not there, or they come and they disappear. And yet we know very well that the Act says you cannot open a pharmacy when there is no registered licensed pharmacist. Even if they are going to the loo or to some shop to buy, they are supposed to lock the pharmacy, because the pharmacy must only operate under the supervision of a licensed pharmacist supervisor. So consumers are supposed to be aware of all this information, and we do sometimes educate consumers, and I want to believe that we can have joint consumer education programs together with MCAZ and ensure that the public are not disadvantaged. Thank you, Rombi.
Thanks so much, Rose, for outlining that. And I mean, she brings up a very important point. I mean, sometimes you hear malokam where the pharmacist only comes on certain days. Speak a little bit to this, Carol, in terms of propriety.
So how it works is that when we license a pharmacy, we appoint a supervisor of record, someone who is supposed to be the resident pharmacist. And like you say, sometimes if they have an emergency or they need to go on leave for a reason or two, they are expected to get someone of the same qualification to cover up for them through locums. So we also issue out licenses for the locum pharmacy. So what we expect is that they have a good working relation where they do proper handover and the pharmacy is continuously supervised. So the law actually talks about what is called continuous personal supervision of a pharmacy. The expectation is that the pharmacy is continuously supervised, not even 1 minute of a break between the time when the supervisor is not there and the opening of the pharmacy. So we expect that if they need to go out maybe to the bank or somewhere, they should temporarily close and the public should not have access to the pharmacy. They are in possession of more than maybe 4,000 medicines which they need to protect and make sure that there is no misappropriation of those products. So we expect them to be there all the time or to close when they are not able to provide the supervision. So that is how the pharmacies are supposed to work.
Absolutely, Murukushinzkwira Pano, a very important information around arming yourself with your rights and also knowing how pharmacists must operate when they're handling these life-saving medicines. And Hansi, when you go into some of these scenarios, ask to see the pharmacist. If you notice anything that is amiss, report to the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe. We'll be sharing with you a number that you can use at the end of the program to make sure that, kumangara kwacho kunoramba kuchitibatsira, because this is our health and these are very important issues. Now, Carol, we're fast running out of time, but I just wanted to quickly hear from you what other collaborative efforts have been made by MCAS, or what other organizations do you work with, particularly when it comes to enforcement, of some of the powers that you have as a regulator.
Yes, so we work quite closely with the police. Is one of our very important key stakeholders who have the prosecuting powers. So each time we are faced with an issue, especially where we are dealing with unlicensed premises, we always work together. We actually go to pick up some police officers to work with them on every mission that we have. And we also work with the customs, ZIMRA. They control the borders, and we train them on a regular basis to be able to identify medicines when they come in, and they already know that any issues to do with medicines are referred to the regulator. The same with port health officials. They are also educated, and now we have moved a step further to work with the prosecutors and the Judiciary Services Commission. We have very good working relations where when we write our statements and send out issues for prosecution, they always are helpful to us and take up the issues through the courts. And we also have, I think the National Prosecuting Authority is there as well. So we have quite a number of stakeholders that we work with as far as illegal activities with medicines are concerned. And importantly also the Consumer Council. We actually have on one of our committees a standing member to represent the consumers. So we can say that we are fairly represented out there in terms of prosecution, consumer rights, and all those other issues.
It would definitely look that way. Now we've fast run out of time, and as we wrap up this conversation, Rosemary, coming to you, any recommendations in closing to our consumers in line with trying to save a bit of money, but also help good health-seeking behavior and good consumer behavior when it comes to their health?
Yes, Rumbi, it's very important for consumers to practice what we call consumer responsibilities, among which are the critical awareness that I've been talking about, and the action. And this calls for information dissemination, even to fellow consumers. Consumers need to know that when they are not sure about a certain product or about certain service delivery standards, they must always try and seek for that information. They can either seek from CCZ to say, do you think this is proper? If it's to do with medicines, they must ask the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe. I'm sure Carol will be able to give the numbers. People must ask, and they must always make sure that they know their rights. They are protected. Government has put in so much work in terms of making sure we have consumer protective legislation, such as the Medicines and Allied Substances Act, which the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe is implementing in a big effort to try and protect consumers. Therefore, we must take advantage of that, and let's not go away or go to the illicit or illegal providers of medicines when we have been given safe platforms such as registered distributors of medicines, licensed premises, licensed pharmacists, the professionals who are there to save us and to protect our health.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. And now coming to you, Carol, your parting shot, and what would you like our listeners to remember from this conversation, and the next time they walk into a pharmacy or into a facility where they intend to purchase a medicine, what should they always remember?
Yes, so they should always remember that the regulator is there for you. You need to buy your medicines from licensed and authorized sources, which include your licensed pharmacies, which you can identify through our licenses that we insist that are supposed to be displayed in any place where medicines are sold. And also, maybe my take-home message to Zimbabwe is that report. We are inundated now with drug and substance abuse, and the public already knows where it's happening. We may not always be in every corner, but you can let us know. We will investigate. We will do anything within our power to make sure that these substances and drugs that are not supposed to be out there are removed and our youth are protected. So we always encourage that we have our customer service number 07188559934. I'll repeat again, 07188559934, where you can send through anything that requires our attention. You can also visit our social media at MCAZ at official across all social media platforms. You should be able to communicate with us, or you can reach us on our website mcaz@mcaz.co.zw on email.
Fantastic. I think that's a good place for us to end our conversation this evening. Allow me to thank you both ladies for conducting a very important conversation and leaving some important messages with the consumers and and I think it's also very good for those who are selling illegally to know that their time it's a ticking bomb that's going to go off very, very soon. Rosemary Mpofu joined us. She's the CEO of the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe. Rose, thank you as always for your input.
Thank you, Ruby.
Good night.
Zimbabwe.
Fantastic. And of course, to you, Carol, in studio, thank you so much for your input as always. And we look forward to having more conversations with you around the state of medicines and offenses and regulation and all sorts on the station. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you very much for having us.